Welcome to the Fallout House of Secrets edition, where we are your number one source for the fallout of all things reality TV. Today, we are back with our Saturday live stream, if you're watching with us live, talking about the second half of week 2 of Big Brother Australia 2021. I'm Logan Murphy.
I am Jordyn Lagace.
And we're back! Yay!
I'm so excited to talk this task.
You know, this may be our 4th day in a row going live, Jordyn, but these are the episodes I'm most excited to cover.
Also me.
Oh, goodness gracious. So yes, we're going to be talking episodes 6 and 7 of Big Brother Australia. But before we get started, if you're watching with us live or after the fact on YouTube, make sure you're subscribing to the channel, turning on notifications, liking, commenting, sharing, all that lovely stuff. And if you're listening to us afterwards, wherever fine podcasts can be listened to, make sure you are following, subscribing, liking, commenting, sharing, all that stuff. Tell all of your friends that we are literally the only podcast in the world for Big Brother Australia. We're the best podcast in the world for Big Brother Australia. So, y'all really need to come watch us.
And where the fuck is Brenton?
Where the fuck is Brenton? It's a great question. So we are gonna start. We start on episode 6. We get this cute little before the recap from the previous episode. We see Carlos getting punished for sleeping midday, and this again
another definition of saucy and sinister.
Very that. And we've been talking all season about the comparisons to BB US, BB Can, BB UK. This was the one that was very BB UK for me, because not only does he get punished, he has to dance around the house for a full hour.
And then Big Brother tells him if he does it again, it's going to be double the time.
And I'm just oh no. I also love that a bunch of people were going back and forth dancing with him, so that way it wasn't just him. I thought that was really cute. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, because they're all kind of been sleeping. It wasn't just him.
No, Katie was fully asleep in the cave with him.
Yeah.
I'm why are we only punishing Carlos and not Katie?
I don't know.
But
I don't know.
So we start the actual episode. We are on day 14, Jordyn. And Danny is still uncoordinated with that jump rope.
Danny, I hope you fall.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel too.
I also would like him to fall into the pool.
Wouldn't that be cute?
I'm demonic like that, but yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
what do you think of his best buddy, Nicholas? Kind of astonished that he is so uncoordinated.
I guess I enjoy their relationship to an extent. They're neither one of them is great by any means, but
right.
Yeah, and Nick says he in a DR, I think it is, that he's more comfortable now that Chris is gone, because again, we are mourning the loss of our naked magician. I'm still upset, but I will get over it, because in episode 7, I see something that I like a little bit more than Christopher, so I'm cool with it. I'm good. My soul is fine.
And with that, unfortunately, we don't have Chris. And Charlotte says Nick needs a makeover.
Yeah, so this is another cute little task. So we get to see Charlotte. So according to the FalloutTV BBAU drinking game, you got to drink, because Charlotte is in these episodes a lot. There is a lot of Charlotte. Charlotte's everywhere. I almost called this episode just Charlotte, because we're finally seeing Charlotte, and I have to say, Jordyn, I am on board with Charlotte.
I love Charlotte, and I love this task.
This is so cute. So Charlotte is obviously a stylist, and we get her VT in the Wednesday episode that we'll talk about. But Big Brother asks her who she thinks needs a makeover the most, and she says Nick. And so they pull in Ari as well, and they do like a little fashion show in the DR. And then the last one was so cute because they called it an SJ collab. And I was just like, I love this. Like, this is so cute.
Urban Chic featuring SJ.
Yeah, literally. And everyone's talking about the rations. And I genuinely, Jordyn, I didn't know the rations were this bad.
I'm over here just eating the spinach.
Oh, 100% I'd be eating just spinach. Like, if there's some sort of like...
Just call me olive oil.
I love spinach. I put spinach in a lot of things. I put spinach in my pasta today. Fun fact. It was great. It was a great time.
I loved it. The rations or something.
Yeah, and because everybody is starving, we get a good old BBUK inspired shopping task. Jordyn, it's a shopping task. Oh.
This task was demonic and saucy.
This is easily, like, across Big Brothers, this is the most difficult shopping task I've seen in years.
You know,
and that's not just because BBUK is off the air.
I feel like with this shopping task, I kind of think they did deserve more than $10 per alarm.
I absolutely agree. So,
especially after what Big Brother put them through.
Okay, so honestly, this wasn't the most difficult thing in the world. So, there's 8 alarms set throughout the house. They're like in the backyard, in the shower, in the bathroom. There's one inside the pool where you have to jump in the pool. And so when the alarms go off, Big Brother will show Big Brother shows a name of a house guest, and that house guest has to find and disengage the alarm, and you get $10 per alarm you set off. Now, Jordyn, I don't think this would be a super difficult task, except for the fact that they only got like 15 seconds per alarm.
Right.
And in some instances, they literally had to run across the house. Like,
well, and those alarms were difficult to find. Like, it was hard to tell which alarm was going off.
Yeah, and so it became a whole house effort, which I loved, but like it didn't feel like enough time. And obviously these tasks aren't set up for them to necessarily win. But I think if they had been given 20 seconds per alarm, which I think is honestly like a good time amount, I think they would have gotten a lot more money than they did.
You know, I gotta say, it would have been easier to go up the stairs than try to climb on that chair with pillows to get to it.
Yeah, I 100% would have done the stairs. I wouldn't even have
wouldn't that have been easier?
Well, and half the time when they're jumping, it felt like most of the alarms also were in the pool. Like, just to be horrible. But I feel like I feel like half the time they failed because they couldn't get on the pillow and like jump in. And the other half they're failing because they can't take their clothes off fast enough. And I'm like, honestly, I'm like, fuck the clothes. I'm jumping straight in.
Live in your bathing suit for the 24 hours.
I would live in a tank top and a bathing suit and just do that for 24 hours. And a lot of them did because they realized that there was one in the pool. So early on in the first day, all of them were like in their bathing suits, basically just living in it. And I felt so bad for Christina because she failed like 3 jumping into the pool in a row. And I'm like, and there were what, like 50, I think Big Brother said there were like 50 of them.
Yeah, I think 50.
40, something like that. How many of them were given to Christina and Katie specifically?
A lot.
Like, I feel like this wasn't balanced.
No. I felt bad for Katie because she kept drying off, full on drying, being completely dry, get right back into bed, and then
not even bed because they decided. not even bed because they decided to have a fucking slumber party in the living room to like help the task. And so Katie fully jumps in the pool, fully dries off, bundles herself up, puts her beanie over her eyes, and then Big Brother is like, actually, no, Katie, back in the pool. And I'm like, really? No. And there's like a lot of...
the task was out here making Katie, giving Daniel a reason to hate Katie more.
I know. And I was just like, what is happening? Oh my God. So in the midst of this task, we'll get to like the ending of the task and the start of day 15. And oh, good Lord, I'm going to call it Tofu Gate.
Not Tofu Gate.
Tofu Gate, Jordyn, Tofu Gate. So in the midst of doing all of the task-related things, we see some like one-sided flirting between Mitch and Christina. And Jordyn, we see Mitch's VT. We get another VT. Thank God.
That might not bode well for Mitch.
Well, he wasn't evicted in this episode, so...
Well, that's good for him.
Not good for our drinking game, but good for him.
No?
No.
We learned that he was a bird watcher.
Which makes complete sense, by the way. Like, nothing about that was incorrect.
You know what? Nothing about his VT had me go, oh, I could...
Shocker.
What?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't shocked at all.
My favorite part, I have to say, is when he was like, I thought this would just be a laugh, and then I saw the prize money, and I was like, oh, I'm in. And I'm like, that's a great attitude to go into. Like, he's very clearly a recruit, but like, I like him a lot. It's hard to tell in this cast who like has seen the show, because there's only been one version of this revamped BBAU format. So it's difficult to know whether they like saw the last season, if they've seen any seasons of Big Brother. Like, it's difficult to gauge that. And then Christina's in the DR and she doesn't know how to friend zone Mitch. And I was just like, no, Mitch, no.
Poor Mitch is out here asking Christina on a one-on-one date, and Christina is out here like,
oh my God.
How do I say no?
Oh my God. I felt so bad. I was just like, no, Mitch. If I didn't have my sexy man stand card on another person, I would give it to Mitch because he's not unattractive. But
so you would totally do Super Mario?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
Why not? Would you?
No.
Well, we know your type, so it's fine.
Yeah, my type is clear. And my type has not arrived. Where is my type?
I almost titled this episode as well, Where the Fuck is Brenton? I thought about it.
I mean, where the fuck is... Yeah. I do think he's coming, because it doesn't make sense why I've seen a VT. Look, it's got to be soon.
We'll talk in Speculation Corner at the end once we get through the episode, because I have some ideas about what's happening with Brenton, but
that big button is the reason.
Well, we'll get there. That was my whole reason.
I was hoping he was going to pop out of the cake with a Shay and Mary.
Not you spoiling. No, we'll get there. So Sid and Danny have a great rapport, and they're feuding with Katie. So this is really like the theme of these two episodes is really truly like there's not really two sides of the house, Jordyn. There are two opposing alliances, and everyone else is floating in between. So we have the very strong alliance of Danny, Nick, and Mel. And we have the very strong alliance of Katie, Jess, and Marley. And then there's some people who are at this point kind of leaning one way, but haven't necessarily voted fully that way. SJ, Mary are kind of leaning the like Katie, Jess, Marley way. Sid, Mitch, Christina are kind of leaning more the first three, as they dub themselves, because they were the first three in. They're kind of leaning with the first three way. Everyone else is kind of floating in the middle. I think the person that has voted the most differently between the two sides, I think, is Ari.
Yeah,
And I
Ari
believe
has been...
Carlos as well has kind of been voting the opposite of the way the votes end up going, is kind of what I've noticed with Carlos's voting history at this point, which is interesting to me. And we always get a house guest that kind of ends up, whether through their own decision or not, they end up voting against what the eviction result is most of the time during a season, which is interesting. And then at this point as well, Danny and SJ have a chat, and they make a deal. They make a safety deal until final 10. What did you think about this?
The deal. Well, like, when in Big Brother, you never say no to a deal. But I don't know if she's on board with it.
I think she would have. I think because of what we know of SJ, I think on her end, she would have absolutely held to that deal. And I think she even had a DR at one point in this episode where she was like, I don't necessarily, like something to the effect of, I don't necessarily want to work with Danny, but if he's in a strong position. And if he's offering to keep me safe, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's my logic too. I don't know if I'd want to work with the devil, but...
I think there's some instances where it can be advantageous. If it was me, like in SJ's position, I probably would, and then like I just wouldn't oppose to members of my side of the house taking him out if they get the opportunity. Is kind of like the vibe I would go with, but ultimately it would depend on like the dynamics of the house and everything like that. But yeah, so we get at the start of day 15, they decide, or we find out how much they win for the shopping task, and they won $220 for 15 house guests. And I said, oh God. Oh Lord.
Here we go.
And
I
this
want all the tofu.
This leads into Tofu Gate, Jordyn. Jordyn, tell me your thoughts about Tofu Gate. I want to hear all of them.
I can't wait for part 2 of Tofu Gate.
Oh my God.
I don't know if I would have been so keen. What I didn't like was the way Danny was like, oh, what did he kind of say? He's like, I don't eat that kind of, I'm not one of those kind of people or something.
Well, so that's later on when they have their blow up after the nominations. I think he says, I don't eat your food, I think is the exact verbiage. Yeah, I
get it. It's like you're in a house of 16. Maybe not buy all the tofu things.
Yeah, and I think the other thing
that budget wasn't.
They were also buying like body wash in the food budget. I'm like, why aren't you stocking up on your own before you come into the house?
And then they were also making sure to get Tilly some candy.
Yeah, I think honestly, and I think even SJ touches on this once the food is delivered. Like it was a genuine misunderstanding about like the amount of tofu that was bought. So I can understand that. It's frustrating when people like Melissa and Danny kind of don't say anything about it and then get angry about it and like lash out. Like Melissa Melissa was there and could have spoken up and said something and gotten closer to like the group that was doing the ordering. But like, as we've seen in many seasons of BBUK past, shopping tasks and the shopping itself can result in a lot of the major drama. And that's what we ended up seeing with specifically Danny and SJ over Tofu Gate, which also simultaneously could be called Tim Tam Gate.
Oh my god, the Tim Tam Gate.
The fucking Tim Tam slams. Now, I won't lie to you, Jordyn. The idea of a Tim Tam slam kind of intrigues me.
Oh, I had them. They were great.
No, like the full process of the Tim Tam slam.
Yeah,
I've had Tim Tams as well.
I've had it.
They're great.
No,
have you? Oh, work.
Yes.
Okay. Work. I love that.
Yeah, no, we had a missionary that lived in Australia. So when she was here, she made all of us do like a Tim Tam slam. So yeah, delicious.
Word. I mean, it's chocolate cookies and coffee. So like those are two things I love. So I'm on board. Just as long as it's a soy latte. I also love the way they say latte.
Latte.
And I'm just like, y'all, it's a latte, but go on. So then we get into the nomination challenge. Jordyn, what do you think about this? How would you have done in this nomination challenge?
I would have been okay, I think.
I don't know how I would have done. I think I would have done decently. I don't think I would have been able to hold on for the whole time. But
I'm up to my usual shenanigans.
Jordyn is always up to shenanigans, but I'm used to that with this podcast anymore. But no, so this task, we get another pair task, which is interesting. And so you have to stand on opposite sides of a giant board, holding a rope that's not connected to anything. So you're literally holding on to the
holding
other
up your partner. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And because there's 15 house guests, they do a random rock pull, basically. But in this instance, the person with the white ball is safe. And thank the heavens above, Katie is safe.
It's Katie!
I just want to know if that was produced or if that was actually random. Because it feels produced. Because I feel like
totally
if the winners of this... I feel like if anyone else had been safe and the winners of the challenge had won, Katie was going home.
Yeah, it felt produced. I mean, I'm
not mad at it because I fucking love
mad at
Katie.
it. I love how easy she gets under Danny's skin.
Oh my god, it's so entertaining. But yeah, so the pairs end up being Tilly and Mel, Mitch and Sid. Both of them are paired for a challenge again. This is like the second time in a row they've paired up. We have Jess and Marley, Danny and Christina, Mary and Charlotte, Nick and Ari, and SJ and Carlos. And they're all doing like decently, and then it becomes very obvious very early on in that SJ and Carlos are not going to last in this comp, and that Mary and Charlotte are not going to last in this comp. So they drop relatively early, and then 30 minutes in, Mitch and Sid drop, and that was the one I was kind of surprised about.
I was surprised about that one as well.
Yeah. And then we end up, it's basically like 3 people in the Danny, well, it's quite literally Danny, Nick, and Ari, or Danny, Mel, and Nick up against Marley and Jess. And so Marley and Jess end up dropping 4th. Nick and Ari drop shortly after, and then it's Danny, Christina, and Mel and Tilly. And Mel and Tilly decide to take a deal for safety, even though I don't think there's any universe Mel or Tilly would have been nominated.
No, not at all.
So, like, I appreciate the deal of it all, but it was whatever.
I
so
hate
we end up...
that Tilly chose that side of the house.
I know. I'm so upset. And I feel like she's probably going to get taken out because of it at some point. And 100%. I'm annoyed about it. So, yeah, we see Danny and Christina win. And I think it was Katie goes immediately to Christina and is like, save Jess, save Marley, like that sort of thing. And so we get to the nominations themselves. And Christina basically lets Danny walk all over her.
That's
and I'm just
what
like,
pissed me off. You equally won. You have the right to nominate. And she just conceded. She was just like, oh yeah, I'll let Danny choose the noms.
well, they end up doing one person each, I think. Kind of,
no,
and then
because,
one
like,
joint person.
Didn't Christina suggest someone, and then Danny was like, no, let's not do that?
Carlos, I think, was the person.
Yeah.
But Danny's like, well, we'll each pick one, and then we'll put one up together. So the nominees end up being Sid, SJ, and Mary. And the whole point of the nominations is that Danny is targeting SJ because it's like a subtle takedown of part of the other side, not attacking Katie directly, but attacking Katie's lifeline directly. And we'll see how that did actually affect Katie before she found out the whole twist, which we'll get to as well. And then Sid and Mary are nominated because they're, again, safe votes.
What do you think of this whole concept to a safe vote?
I mean, it's basically the concept of a pawn in Big Brother, and pawns go home. Like,
pawns go home all the time.
We'll get there. But, like, it was just like, I hate that they're calling them safe votes. I think that's what I'm annoyed with. I understand that, like, when you're nominating...
vote. I would say if it was a safe vote, wouldn't that be a safe person to get out?
Absolutely.
And no blood. That would be my more definition of a safe vote. Not necessarily a...
Well, I think the only person that has used the word pawn in a nomination is Tilly.
Yep.
Which I really appreciate. But yeah, and then I think they were going back and forth between, was it Mary and Mitch, I think were the two they were going back and forth about, because Mary had just been nominated or something like that. Like, there was some reasoning for not necessarily wanting to put up Mary, but Christina ends up putting up Mary. Sid is talking after the nominations when we get the fallout of the noms. He's frustrated over being a safe vote. Mary's also in the DR talking. She's saying maybe I shouldn't even unpack because this is now the second time in a row she's being used as a safe vote. And, like, I understand that it's difficult when you're nominating to nominate 3 people. So I get that. But, like, honestly, if I were in Danny's position, I would have just straight up nominated SJ, Jess, and Marley. Like, I'm just, like, throwing it all to the wall. One of them is going to go home. So why does it matter? Like... And that really would have worked for Danny, given the twist. We'll talk about it. It's at this point that we do get the SJ and Danny confrontation. Danny saying, I don't eat your food. That's when we get all of this stuff. And then SJ is really fighting to stay here. Ari's in the DR saying that he thinks it's going to be close between SJ and Mary. And then we move to the eviction room. Now, Jordyn, I'm going to be honest. I don't remember what Sonia wore here. Do you remember?
No.
I'm going to assume she looked fabulous, but I don't remember what she wore.
I prefer Day 7's outfit.
Mm-hmm. I prefer...
Yeah, because I am not remembering.
We'll talk about it in the next episode. The day 16 eviction, I think it is. This is day 15. Day 16, the pink blazer. That's my favorite look of hers thus far this season. But we'll get there. So SJ is talking about how it was a genuine mistake with the tofu and the Tim Tams. Sid said he didn't think he would be nominated because this is also his second time being nominated, I believe. And he even says there's no such thing as a safe vote. And Mary also kind of talks about this same concept. Like, there's no such thing as really a safe vote because anything can happen. But Christina assures her in this moment that they put her up specifically to be a quote-unquote safe vote. And it's just annoying. And then at this point...
I really dislike the term safe vote.
Just say pawn. Like,
yeah, because like for me, safe vote, like I said, it would be more
the
of
safe
someone
person to get out. Yeah.
Safe person to get out, not with no repercussions. That's more of a safe vote. So the term
I think
is gonna annoy the fuck out of me for the
drink every
majority
time. We're gonna add it to the drinking game. Drink every time they say safe vote.
Logan's a safe vote.
Jordyn's such a safe vote. I also think we may be annoyed. I just thought about this. Potentially because we're so geared, our minds are, with Big Brother at least, our minds are so geared with like the US and Canada format, where like a safe vote is like when you're HOH and you don't want to be, and like the first couple weeks, those are like the safe votes to get out. I think that's kind of that's at least where my brain goes with the term automatically.
I would agree.
Yeah, so we go to the vote, and Jordyn, I'm sad. Because by a vote of 8-3-2, SJ was evicted from the Big Brother Australia house. And she's sad, and she's leaving. And then Big Brother says, hold up!
Okay, this is one thing I am curious about. How soundproof is the house? Because how did they not hear that while they were in there?
I assume the hallway is completely soundproof, because I remember when the BB Air people moved in, Tilly wouldn't stop screaming. And so I feel like once you close that door to the like hallway before you walk out, I feel like where the attic is, I feel like that hallway has to be like extra soundproofed for this reason specifically.
Yeah, because I would also think, because even when Big Brother's talking to the attic, you can hear. So that's why I was kind of like, how are they not giving away their own twists?
Yeah. So we find out SJ is not evicted, and Jordyn, I'm so happy. We have made our love of SJ known.
If it was now was the time for Big Brother to pull something like this, thank the Lord above.
Because like we saw this in BBAU 2020 when he pulled this for Angela around the same time. I looked it up because I was curious when it was. It was, I think hers was day 18, I think. Don't quote me on that. But it was around the same time because I was curious if this was just early or if like, my real question is, was this completely planned, or did they realize they didn't want to lose SJ and brought it in? That's kind of where my question is at this point. Like, were they going to do this regardless? Or
I want to say they were, because the attic room was like made and ready to go.
But they also could have prepped that at any point. You know what I mean?
I don't know if they like you would prep construction while someone's in
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to think it was partially
for SJ. Was for Miss SJ.
Yeah. So
and then SJ goes up, and then we get back in that eviction room, and what happens?
I'm gonna try to do my best impersonation of Big Brother. Watch this. Surprise house guests. It's a double eviction. Ooh, that's not bad.
Surprise house guests. It's a double eviction.
And they're like, what? And I was like, honestly, the like
their
framing
expression, framing when they're like, oh, no such thing as a safe vote, I guess.
Well, that's why I was like, the framing of the episode, I was like, I felt like there was gonna be shenanigans because they kept bringing up the concept of safe votes. And then there was also that whole conversation, or the DR session with Sid, where Sid was talking about how close he felt to Danny. So I felt like there was probably some riggery going on. But yeah, so they go into a double eviction. There's no new nominees or anything like that. It's Sid or Mary. And I was like, no, I don't want to lose another one of my faves. But then I remembered that there was the attic, and I was like, oh, please let them also go into the attic, please. And so we do the double eviction vote, Jordyn, and it's a fucking tie.
The shenanigans.
Gagged. And so
the tomfoolery.
The tomfoolery. So in the event of a tie in Big Brother Australia, the nomination challenge winner/winners are the ones to break the vote. So Danny and Christina
basically
go
like
to the diary
HOH.
room. Basically like HOH. But they don't do it in front of the person. Which I'm just like, just vote in front of the people. Like, you don't need to be going... Like, what?
Everybody knows.
Yeah, literally everybody knows. And so, ultimately, by a vote of 7-5, Mary is also fake evicted.
Oh my god, Mary's expression when the ladder dropped.
The moment when Mary stops her suitcase and fully falls on the ground, I was like, honestly, same. Like, truly, honestly,
that's a whole ass mood. That's a whole ass mood.
Absolutely. I do want to go over the votes to evict really quick before we move into the next episode. So with the SJ vote, voting to evict SJ were Ari, Charlotte, Jess, which was kind of the gag to me.
Yeah.
Kind of gagged. Mary, also kind of gagged. Mel, Mitch, Sid, and Tilly. The votes to evict Mary were Carlos, Nick, and SJ. And the votes to evict Sid were Katie and Marley. The Sid votes made sense. The Mary votes were interesting to me. Especially Nick voting for Mary. I was confused, but okay. And then as far as the double eviction...
Wait, yeah. So never mind. I'm being stupid.
Oh, no, what were you going to say? No, what were you going to say?
I briefly was like, wait, Nick didn't vote with Danny, and then I realized Danny was in power.
Well, Nick didn't vote with Mel.
Right.
Which is interesting to me, because I think if one of the three of them is ultimately going to flip, I think it's going to be Nick before either one of the others.
I think Nick is going to realize soon that he needs to do that.
I hope so, because, Lord, I would like him a lot better if he wasn't attached at the hip to the fucking dumbass. And then as far as the double eviction vote is concerned, the votes to evict Mary are Ari, Carlos, Mel, Mitch, and Nick, with Danny and Christina ultimately being the tiebreaker votes. And the votes to evict Sid are Charlotte, Jess, Katie, Marley, and Tilly. And this was kind of the point where I was like, oh, it's a real, split house here.
Yeah.
This kind of feels like... The only one that kind of threw me off a little bit was Tilly voting in favor of Mary. Because I don't think we had really seen them have a relationship at all. But I thought that was interesting. So, with that, shall we move into episode 7? Ooh.
Do. The things they got in the attic.
That attic was cute as fuck, let me tell you. I'm like, can I live in the attic?
I'll move into the attic. Big Brother delivered breakfast.
I was like, oh my god.
I like how the ladies cleaned it.
Right? I was like, I love that. I love that for them. It felt very them. The old bags, as they call themselves.
Not the old bags, but yes.
I assume that's an Australian slang term for older women.
I mean, you could also be called mature, Big Brother.
Yeah, I don't know. But so Mary comes up to the attic with SJ and they have like a really emotional reunion. Big Brother tells them that they're going to be lurking over the house guests for the next couple days. And so they'll get to see and hear a lot of things, which I love because I love a conveniently timed twist for my faves. So I'm on board.
Indeed.
And then we see a little bit of the fallout of what they don't know to be the fake double eviction, but they think is a real double eviction. Sid is grateful for another day. We get our celebration dance from Mary and SJ. And then we move into day 16. And it is at this point, Jordyn, that I would like to point out how attractive Sid looks in just a towel.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I was like, okay. I'm on board.
Danny hearing steps on the roof. What do you think of that? Does that mean the attic isn't actually that insulated?
So that's where I was like, how are they hearing things? Like, I guess it's not, at least from like the roof level. Because I'm trying to think how hard they would have had to like stomp around for Danny to actually hear something, unless it was like production. Like production going in and giving them like breakfast or something. Like that's kind of where I was a little confused.
Right.
But yeah, from the sounds of it, it sounds like Danny fully saw or fully heard the ladies in the attic. And I was like, oh, not that. Anything but that, please.
Right.
But yeah, it's at this point that the house dynamic has kind of changed. And we see Sid and a DR. We get a lot of Sid this episode, which I love as well. Because I'm really, really liking him. I liked him from the start when we saw him. And I'm really, really liking him. And I love that he also kind of has a strategic mind. And I don't think he's someone that's necessarily going to be targeted very early on moving forward now that what are we at? 15 again? Are we at 15 again?
Could be.
18, 17, 16, 15. 15 or 16?
Yeah.
Or 14. I don't know.
It might be 14. But what I liked was Sid is realizing how expendable he is to that side of the house.
Yeah, and now he's kind of weary of Danny because of this move. Like, obviously he stayed, but now he's like fully shifted sides of the house without knowing it really. And now he's fully on like the Katie Jess Marley wavelength, kind of like a parallel wavelength going through, which I love. I just need Tilly to flip to that side of the house, and like everything will be good in the universe, honestly.
Yeah. I don't think Tilly is going to turn on Danny.
I don't think
I want her to, but I don't think so.
Absolutely. I will get there. I fear for Tilly in the next few evictions.
Wouldn't surprise me.
But we'll talk about it. So we get a quick segment in the attic. Mary thinks Jess may have voted her out, which she didn't do, but that becomes a little bit relevant in a little bit. We'll talk about that. We get a lot more Charlotte, Jordyn. Drink. Charlotte is on screen. And you know what? We even get her fucking VT. We get a VT from Charlotte. And I'm like, thank you, Jesus. And it was everything I wanted it to be and more, Jordyn. What did you think?
Thank God we're finally getting a VT, but that also makes me worried for her.
Yeah.
I just feel like you either get a VT and get voted out, or you're doing something substantial.
Right.
And I hope it's substantial and not a vote out.
Yeah. Yeah, she says this is the first time that Big Brother has had a princess in the house, which I love.
I mean, I wouldn't say that's the first time because you're currently living with Ari.
Yeah. Well, they did go in at the same time. So, like, it's cool. I also love that she thought that Big Brother himself would have a Steve Jobs kind of fashion sense.
Okay.
Like, I found that interesting. And then I was like, personally, I was trying to visualize what I think Big Brother would look like.
And what was your definition?
I don't know. I felt like it's probably like a skinny, lanky, sort of like tall white man.
You know who I think it is?
Who?
Big Brother is really Lucifer Morningstar.
Stop. The crossover we didn't know we needed.
I'm sorry, but like when I hear Big Brother and his demanding ways, he gives me very that.
I'm the devil, detective. The devil. So we get to go back to the attic, thank God, because all I really want to see is SJ and Mary. And they get breakfast, like we talked about, and it was great. And then Big Brother tells them that they have a wireless radio. So they get to tune into conversations in the house. And half of me was like, this is way too much power. And the other half of me is like, I genuinely don't care.
Were you excited about the conversation they first overhear?
The Jess conversation? Yeah.
No, oh yeah, I've said to Mary.
Well, it was Jess first. But the Nick, Mel, Danny.
Yeah.
I was like, how convenient that Big Brother decides that they can turn on their radio at this specific moment when all three of them are conveniently in the cave talking strategy and conveniently talking about how they're going to get rid of everyone else and they have a 3-person alliance, and conveniently you get to hear the whole conversation. I was like, Big Brother. Like, from an objective standpoint, this is like way too much power. But I also don't care. Because it's my face.
One thing I was kind of a little shook by was why were they allowed? So they were allowed to obviously like tell someone, but like, do you think they should have been allowed, like that person they told? Do you think they should have been allowed to say that this is who they heard from or whatever?
Oh, absolutely not. But I also love the mess and the chaos of like, so yeah, so we'll jump to that. So Big Brother also tells them later on that the attic has a direct hatch to the DR. And I'm like, okay, good. I love learning about the logistics of the house. Honestly, that's what I was more excited about with this moment. I was like, oh, okay, attic above DR. And if the DR is here, then like the hallway is like there. Like, I was like, I loved it.
I've been trying to figure out where the yard will like because it seems like they go down that hallway for challenges as well.
It seems like, okay, so the main hallway, I feel like you have to go into the basement in order to get to the yard. Like, I feel like it's the same door to go to both.
Okay.
Unless it's literally another part of the like set, which I also wouldn't be surprised about.
Right.
Like, they literally have to take them like out of the house to do it. Like, that wouldn't surprise me either. But we know the basement is in the house because we've seen them walk into the hallway. So we know at least that the basement is in the house. But I wouldn't be surprised if the yard was like a completely separate entity.
I wouldn't either. I really like all the behind the scenes stuff, and we've said it in like BB Can audit videos. Like all of that stuff interests the fuck out of me.
Oh, same.
So like, I want all the details.
Yeah.
I was kind of dead that they had to unroll a rug.
I know.
Big Brother likes making them unroll rugs to get to secrets.
Rugs, carpet, different
move the
things
fucking
to put
cactus.
On the floor. God. So Big Brother tells SJ and Mary that they get to talk to 2 house guests. And so the first one they decide to talk to is Katie. And so Katie comes into the DR, and Big Brother's like, well, how are you feeling after the evictions of SJ and Mary? And she's like, well, I'm feeling really down. I feel really flat today. And he's like, well, I have a surprise for you from 2 of your favorite house guests. Well, actually, let me let them tell you themselves. And so fully Katie's like, what? And looks up, and they're there, and they all freak out. And then it's at this point that SJ and Mary give Katie the information about the first 3. Yeah. And so she's super excited and goes immediately to Marley and Jess. And she's like, I'm not kidding. SJ and Mary are still in the house. They're in the attic. They told me all of the tea. And I was like, if I was told that in the Big Brother house, I would be like, what?
Danny and Mel and Nick want to wipe everybody out.
But they're still here, so it's fine. And so they're all freaking out. It's real cute. I also want to talk about Ari, and like the whole Ari segment was really like, I loved it for me. Not only for the Botox.
Would you say you've had work done?
And he's like, basically, oh, well, what have I not had done? And I'm like, honey, you're 22. You can't wrinkle yet.
I was more shook by the fact that he can move his eyebrow.
Ooh, I can still move mine. And then I love that he's fully like going in, like in the DR, going in about his strategy a little bit. He's like, oh, I'm telling everyone what they want to hear, which is very classic Big Brother. And I think he is doing a very, very good job, and he's positioned very well in this house right now. Which I'm not surprised about, honestly. But like,
this goes back to the same thing with like the SJ and Danny. Absolutely, if someone offers you a deal, you say yes.
Yeah.
You agree. Oh, you have a dog? What kind of dog? I have 2. You know what I mean?
Like, oh, absolutely. You are everyone to you are everything to everyone.
Yeah. Like, thank God someone knows what they're doing in there.
Ari has clearly watched the show. Like, I think that's an obvious one.
Ari is a fan.
I knew I was gonna love Ari from the like
Ari was the villain that I never thought I wanted.
Remember when we got literally 4 video clips of Ari going into this season? Like, but you're gonna promote the fuck out of fucking, who the fuck did they give VTs to preseason? Who's already gone home? Carlos. We'll get there. You're gonna give a full fucking VT to a person that still isn't in the house on day 16. Sorry, Brenton, but like, where the fuck? Like,
Max?
What?
Max got a full VT. God.
No, he didn't. He was part of the other group.
What about Lil? Did Lil get a full VT?
Lil did. Lil did, but Lil also had like a full like online presence prior to the show, so I get that one. But it still just frustrates me that we didn't get full VTs from all of these house guests. And so I'm just confused. So this nomination challenge, Jordyn, how do you think you would have done?
What one was this? Let me just. Oh,
so this was
okay.
You have to hold the weighted bar over your head. It's 15% of your body weight. You basically just have to lay on this like inclined platform.
The whole balloon portion freaked me out.
Oh, I would have probably dropped my bar after someone's balloon popped.
They would have scared the shit out of me.
Oh I was just like, no.
The balloon popping would have scared me, and I would have unintentionally dropped the ball.
Yep.
Yes.
Same. 100% same. 150% same. Yeah. So this comp was interesting. Another fucking endurance comp, Jordyn. Is that all we're gonna get?
In Big Brother Australia. That's all you get. And a dingo ate my baby.
Oh my god, we will talk about that at a later date. I have thoughts and feelings. Yeah, so this comp was interesting. We see some of the normal first outs in other comps be the same with this comp. Charlotte's out first.
What I find interesting, why is it the same top 3, top 4 every challenge?
Because every challenge is the same, but focusing on a different type of muscle in your body. Like, that's literally what we're down to. And I'm just, like, as someone who's not very physically fit, but is trying to be, like, I'm just, like, I would not do well in BBAU. I'd do pretty decently well, I think, in BBUS or BBCAN. But I would not do well in BBAU.
You would be the safe vote.
I would be the safe vote. They'd put me up every fucking time, and I'd be like, hi, I'm fabulous. Keep me, thanks.
Hi, I'm fabulous. I'll make you more soup.
Oh, no, full on, Jordyn. I would be, like, if I ever get the chance to play Big Brother, I will be the mom of the house. Like, I will cook for every single person. I don't care your dietary restriction. I don't care, like, anything. And you want to know why? Because I'm going to get so fucking bored in the house that I'm going to need something to do. And, like, I'm a pretty decent cook. So, like, that would be 100%. That's my strategy.
I would be the one that's cleaning. I'd be like, I can't live like this.
Yeah, I'm not much of a cleaner. Like, I'll cook. I just don't
let me fold. I'll fold everybody's clothes.
Ooh,
I'll pack the suitcase for
clothes. You. Right?
Well, I will pack that suitcase and send you right out the door.
Are you the person after the double eviction packing the suitcase for whoever got evicted?
I'd be like, oh, that's Jordyn's. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so Charlotte's out first. Shocker. Ari's out. A lot of, like, the same people that we see dropping early in comps are out. And so by the final 5 left, we're left with Jess, Katie, Mel, Tilly, and Sid. And this competition definitely is geared towards fitter women who weigh less.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not going to tell my exact weight on the internet, Jordyn, but I would be holding somewhere around, like, I don't even know. Like
what I really
pounds.
liked was Tilly helping Sid.
I loved that too. I was like, yes, Tilly.
When she was helping Sid, and they pan into Danny, and
Danny's just pissed off, and I'm like, also, can we talk? So obviously, all of the platforms were adjusted for their height. Can we talk about the amount of space between the board for, like, Danny to rest his feet on and the bottom of the board? Like, that was, like, a solid, like, foot. I was dying, Jordyn. I was just like,
Danny
what?
is a pint-sized terror.
Oh my god. Yeah, so after so Jess drops shortly after we get to the final 5, and then 2.5 hours in, Sid drops after making a deal only with Melissa, which I thought was interesting.
Oh,
and then Tilly and Katie end up making a deal. Tilly then extends the deal to Melissa, who says absolutely nothing. And then she drops shortly after. And then it's between Katie and Tilly.
There's something about Mel where she can't actually accept the deal.
No, she can't verbalize anything because she's so in the zone. She literally, like, can't say anything during challenges. And I'm just like, what? Huh? And then, so, Katie and Tilly have, like, fully made a deal. But Tilly's like, I want to do it to 3 hours and then I'll drop just to, like, say that I did it. And I was like, yes, Tilly. Yes, queen. Queen. I want to stand you harder, but you're on the wrong side of the house. Like,
I know.
But we do end up after 2 hours and 42 minutes, I think it is. Tilly wins.
I do want to say, when Tilly and Katie are making the deal and they zoom on Danny, like, Danny's facial expressions.
I'm just like, she's trying to preserve herself. Like, not everyone in this game on your side of the house is working for you. Like, fuck off. Literally just fuck off. And so it's at this point as well, Katie, like, has fully made the deal. But after the comp ends, she's hugging Tilly and she's like, save Jess, save Marley, save Jess, save Marley, save Jess, save Marley, save Jess, save Marley. Add it, Jordyn, add it to the drinking game. Drink every time Katie says, save Jess. Like, honestly.
Katie's really out here, like, doing everything she can to protect Jess.
I mean, I love it. I mean, I would do the same, honestly.
But, like, what I find interesting is I feel like they want to weaken Katie, right? And that's why they're doing what they're doing with their nominations. But if you want to weaken Katie, why not just nominate her?
Yeah, that's what I'm... Well, and obviously
what is it about Katie that you're so afraid of?
Well, Katie has been up. So maybe that's a thing. Like, Katie's already been up and survived a vote. I don't know.
But
I don't know.
It's just... you know what I'm saying. Like,
well, yeah, and in
why
technicality...
aren't you making the move yourself?
Well, and in technicality, in the last 2 nomination challenges, Katie basically wasn't eligible to be nominated. The first time for actually, like, being immune and pulling the ball, but the second time for making the deal with Tilly. And so, like, I don't understand when they made the Christopher move, because that was all Nick being like, no, we don't need to... Chris is the one making the big moves. We need to take him out instead of taking out Katie. I think if they had taken out Katie at that point, I think they would have a much clearer, like, path, because I think that side of the house would have broken up.
One thing we didn't touch on, remember, like, let's just go back for a second. Katie is telling Marley and Jess, and then I thought I heard Tilly pop out of a corner and be like, Katie, is that you?
Yeah, so Katie was there or Tilly was there when Katie was trying to tell Marley and Jess. She hadn't yet, but she was, like, still in the room. And so it's like the editing is like the ruse of, like, oh my God, is Tilly gonna hear something? But no, Tilly fully left the room, and then Katie told Jess and Marley.
I was just like, LOL. Check the room before you're gonna drop those details.
Well, they didn't with fucking Chris when Chris and Jess had the conversation. So I guess Katie learned her, or Katie and Chris. So Katie learned her lesson and made sure that nobody else was in these rooms. So yeah, we get Tilly's nomination.
Let's get into the nominations.
So she nominates Charlotte, Carlos, and Jess. So Jess is nominated because she's a physical threat on the other side of the house. And I'm like, Tilly, join that side of the house, please. She nominates Carlos because she says that you can't promise both sides of the house the same thing, and that he's a floater. And this, I think, is the first instance this series that we're hearing the word floater out of someone's mouth, which I love. I love
and
it. And then she nominates Charlotte, surprise Jordyn, as a safe vote.
Not only was it a safe vote, she decided to play eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
I got so frustrated. Because if I got evicted over an eeny, meeny, miny, mo, I would literally never let that person live it down.
Okay, so what I find funny is just like, can you imagine when you get out of the house and learn that you were nominated via eeny, meeny, miny, mo?
Disgusting. Disgusting. And so,
but it seemed like she was going to do Charlotte no matter what.
Yeah, she was like, well, Charlotte's already had a turn on the block, so maybe I'll put Mitch. Charlotte. And so I'm just like, okay. So this is Jess's second nomination, question mark.
Yeah.
Charlotte's second, question mark. And Carlos's second, question mark.
I want to say yes to all of the above.
I think all three of them are nominated for. If anybody else knows, leave it in the chat or the comments, because I think I could go check, but I'm just too lazy to do it right now. And so Jess is crying in the DR. Katie's working floaters. Danny says people would be dumb not to vote Jess out. Carlos is going to Danny for a deal. We talked about the two sides of the house, basically. And then our old bags are back, Jordyn. And so they decide, with what they've heard and gathered from in the attic, they decide the second person they're going to talk to from the attic is Sid, which I loved. I loved every moment of it. I was so happy.
Once he got that conversation, he really went into work.
He went into overdrive. He said, "You better work, bitch." And he truly went to work. And so he's talking to specifically Ari and Christina. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to say. So in the challenge, Christina had her hair in a ponytail. And when she dropped out, I fully looked. I was watching, and I was like, who is that? Fully did not recognize Christina at all. And I was like, who are you? And then Big Brother was like, Christina's out. And I was like, oh, that's Christina. Okay, word. Yeah,
you
so
didn't recognize her from the dried mop?
No.
From the amount of times she fell in the pool and failed the task because
my God,
because
they didn't give them enough time, Jordyn.
Over the fucking pillows. Let's climb. No, go up the fucking stairs and take a dive.
Literally.
Okay.
So right before we go to the eviction room,
frustrated. I probably would have got nominated because I would have been like, why not go up the stairs and just dive into the pool? Why climb up the
No, honestly, if I'm Christina, I would have just sat in the backyard all day. I don't care what the weather is like. 100%. But then they probably would have given her one to go to the fucking showers. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah, so right before we go to the eviction room, Ari's in the DR saying that he needs to think with his head and not that useless thing in your chest. And I was just like, Ari, my icon. Is my stand card on Ari? I don't know, Jordyn.
Admit, I wasn't expecting this pre-season from Ari.
I was, only because I watched the 4 clips that he was in pre-season and you didn't.
Not I knew this clips.
It was literally in one video and he was in it 4 times.
Icon.
But I knew this was the energy we were going to get from Ari, and I am so happy.
Come on, Ari.
Yes. So, eviction room, Jordyn, what did you think about the goings-on in the eviction room?
the eviction room. Shenanigans, Shenumagans. Hello, Sonia, in that pink blazer.
Sonia looked so good in the pink blazer.
Maybe we should do a special episode where we talk about Arissa's outfits, Sonia's outfits. We'll go back and look at Emma Willis's outfits.
Oh my god, can we do a full fashion episode? I'm ready. I'm ready and willing. Like, that sounds amazing. Oh, we're doing it. Period. We're doing it. Sorry. That sounds so
Spoiler
fun.
alert. Spoiler alert.
We could also potentially include Miss Chen Moonves if we really want to.
I mean, her outfits look the same almost every week, so.
I mean, there's some that are cute. But yeah, so Katie is saying that there's a big gap in the house now that the moms are gone. Tilly says that she thinks Charlotte is safe. Shocker.
Honestly, you know what? At this point, let's add anytime anyone says safe, take a fucking shot.
Yeah, anytime someone says safe vote, safe bet. Yeah, I'm just frustrated with all of it, honestly. But yeah, so Carlos sees sort of the house divided, and I love that he's like fully self-aware that the reason he's nominated is because he's a floater.
I get it.
Yeah.
And then Jess is shaking like a leaf. Danny says,
yeah, so that
Jess should be nervous. Danny, you're an asshat.
Yeah, we saw this clip teased in the promo for the season as well, and I didn't realize it was going to be like this sort of conversation, like this circumstance. But yeah, I didn't really know what was going to happen with this vote. I just didn't know whether it was going to flip, what was going to happen. I wasn't sure. But the blind side happens, Jordyn. And Carlos is evicted.
Carlos is dancing his way out the door.
I am not even going to lie to you. I'm kind of sad. Like, I'm happy that we kept Jess, but I am sad that Carlos became, like, collateral damage.
I mean, really, this should be a lesson to all. Not everybody is a safe vote. And maybe you shouldn't count on a safe vote. Put your nominations up as nominations and see what the fuck happens.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I have the
now
the
Carlos can sleep without the fear of having to dance for 2 hours.
I know. I have the votes, the vote breakdown. I just completely forgot to pull it, if I'm being honest with you. Listening live viewers or listening after the fact viewers. Here we go. I have the vote breakdown. So, the people that voted to evict Carlos were Ari, Charlotte, Christina, Jess, Katie, Marley, and Sid. So Sid's plan that was kind of produced by Katie, Jess, Marley, SJ, and Mary, but fully like Sid was Brittany in this moment, full on work bitch. So Sid's plan fully worked and pulled all the votes that he needed to. The 4 votes on Jess were Danny, Mel, Mitch, and Carlos. And the 1 vote on Charlotte was from Nick. And I'm again confused what Nick is doing with his voting.
I don't know what Nick was doing. I personally enjoyed when the vote was read and it's like a 7-4 to 1.
7 to 4 to 1. Yeah.
And Danny is like
There's multiple Danny zoom-ins, so drink. There's a lot more in the last 10 minutes of this episode, so do a lot of drinking. Tilly's confused, obviously. We get a little bit of the fallout from this eviction, which we don't normally see, but we'll get to why we saw it. Katie's in the DR. She said it's a great day. Sid's in the DR saying that Danny and Nick have never been quieter. It's a win for us because we hate that side of the house. And then we go into day 17, and at 5 a.m. they have a random ominous countdown, and everyone's freaking out. Like, if I woke up to that, I genuinely, like, honestly would think that, like, the world is ending.
Big brother, what are you doing now?
But no, instead, they have a fucking party at 5 a.m. with... Jordyn, I don't know if you know anything about this. Do you know what fairy bread is?
That's a fairy bread.
That's what I was wondering. So it looks like toast with those, like, spherical sprinkles on it.
Stand by. I'm looking for a recipe for fairy bread.
Please do. So they had fairy bread and tiny cheeses. They had like a full-on like charcuterie board, which, fun fact for the podcast, I am an avid lover and connoisseur of charcuterie boards. I love them. I think they're great. And then they have Big Brother's like, well, I have one more surprise for you. And so they walk out into the backyard and there's a fake giant cake. And I'm like, Brenton?
Hi, Brenton.
But no, Brenton's not in the house. But surprise, it's SJ and Mary. Yay! I thought they would have stayed in the attic for another couple days.
That would have been fun.
What is fairy bread, Jordyn?
This is a great Aussie kids party favorite. We're all brought up on. Bread is spread with margarine and topped with colorful sprinkles.
So it's carbs and sprinkles.
8 slices of bread, margarine, and candy sprinkles.
No. I am not about to eat some fucking bread with sprinkles and butter. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it, Jordyn.
I thought we could have a fairy bread. Next episode, we could try some
I was going to say for finale, do you want to do a mukbang and we'll do fairy bread?
As long as there's no Vegemite.
I mean, that's up to you. I can't help you with your mukbang because you're literally across North America from me, but so we get more Danny zoom-ins.
Any good?
No, I don't think it doesn't sound good at all. It sounds disgusting. But am I gonna buy sprinkles and potentially make this for the finale? Probably. Yeah, so more
I can't do No fairy bread for me.
I'm good. So we get more Danny zoom-ins, drink again, and then Danny full-on goes to the ER, or not the ER.
The DR.
The DR. I'm tired, y'all. 4 days in a row. He fully goes to the DR. He's visibly upset, and he said he'd be surprised if he survives the next eviction. I hope
Here's hoping.
Don't. Yeah.
Here's
and
hoping.
Then, Jordyn, I think it's time for our favorite segment.
Speculation
corner. Ow. Okay, where the fuck is Brenton? Sorry, headphone users.
I'm sorry. He is currently in my bed. I don't know.
Jordyn!
I'm being chaotic.
Oh my god. So all we got from the preview going into the episode that is dropping in like 5 hours, which I might actually watch live.
Look, I'm really excited for the next episode. I also might be watching live.
Ooh, you might get some live tweeting from the fallout. Ooh, probably not. We're probably both going to be asleep. But like the thought's nice. So I guess the task for this week is the big red button.
Come on, big red button.
Is it still surprise week? Or is it just there's the big red button?
It's the big red button week.
And then we get an ominous woman talking to us instead of Big Brother, and I was like, who the fuck are you?
How dare you take Saucy and
no,
Sinister away from us?
Big sister? Absolutely not. No, no ma'am. No ma'am. No, I'm good. And we get teased about 4 shock evictions, Jordyn. And I want to point out specifically the people that they highlighted or showed like clips of. So they showed Mel, Katie, Tilly, SJ, Nick, and Danny.
There is a God. Danny might be gone.
I just hope we don't lose SJ again.
We can't be robbed of SJ's fashion.
Well, so I'm gonna go under the assumption that of the 4 shock evictions, at least 2 of them are people that they showed. It may be all 4. It might just be like 1 or 2 of them. We don't know yet. But I'm going to go under the assumption that it's 2 of them. So I feel like what could happen is it's probably
based off of Danny's DR, I want to say he's one of them.
I feel like either Danny is going to survive this chunk of, or Danny's going to be evicted in this chunk of episodes or make the finale. Like, I don't think there's really any in between.
I would agree.
So hold on. I'm going to do some more cursory research as well, because I'm trying to figure out how many house guests we have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we're at top 13 right now. But again, that doesn't include Brenton. So I 100% am under the impression that Brenton is part of the big red button twist. I would be genuinely surprised. I would be genuinely surprised if we don't see Brenton in one of the next 4 episodes.
Brenton, where are you?
Honestly, like I'm so it's literally going to be day 17. I'm so confused. Like, I don't think they brought in house guests this late on the last season.
They used to pull this shit all the time in the old format.
In the old format. Well, the old format was basically BBUK, but in Australia. So, like, the other thing I will point out is until we see Brenton, something to keep in mind, until we see Brenton, we know for a fact Christina will not be evicted. So if Christina happens to be on the block at any point,
would love to see Christina all of a sudden turn on Danny.
I'd love to see Christina and Tilly both turn on Danny.
I think Tilly, she's got to be realizing she's on the wrong side now, and I think she's smart enough to maybe jump ship.
I would hope so. I think as far as players being in good positions, I still think Ari is in probably the best position as far as like not really being targeted, but still being in with the house. I think Sid is also putting himself now in a very good position where I don't necessarily know if he's going to be immediately targeted.
I think Sid flipping the script was pivotal for his game.
Look. Absolutely. It's
I'm
late.
on day 3 of a migraine that won't kindly fuck off. So
disgusting. I also think potentially Charlotte is in a good position. Because I think as long as, like, if they keep using her as a quote-unquote safe bet, I feel like that could be an interesting pitch at the end.
I wonder if they're going to realize soon that the safe bet is never the good bet.
Yeah. I also forget that in the final 3 of BBAU, it's a public vote. So, like, that's really honestly the part that is going to throw me off as far as the winner is concerned.
Who gets the public vote out of Nicholas, Mel, and Trash Bucket?
Mel, probably.
I could see that, yeah.
Because I feel like, because if she makes it that far, I honestly don't think, this is a bold statement, but I feel like if Mel makes final 3, I don't think it matters who is against her or the game they've played. I think a lot of people are going to vote for Mel because of her story. Which, honestly, I wouldn't be the most upset about. Because from what I remember, the winner of last season won for his gameplay. I still need to go back, and that feels like a fever dream to me because I watched it in like a very turbulent part of my life a year ago. So I need to go back and like rewatch that season. Because I don't remember anything that happened in that season other than all the people of color going out literally like the first week and then Angela being iconic. Like, that's all I remember.
Big brother, I need some tea.
I love it. With that, Jordyn, I think we have come to the end of our discussion. We had a lot to talk about.
I feel like if we continue on this rate, it's like going to be 90 minutes every week.
Which, honestly, like, I'm not the most upset about.
I'm not either.
Because it's a lot to talk about. Like, we're
to the Big Brother gods that Jordyn does not have a migraine this week and can function a little bit more.
Yes, please. We are.
When are we back, Logan? What is? Because we're not. This is we're only doing 2 live shows this week.
Yeah, this week is kind of where I'm not going to say dead because you're going to be seeing a lot of us throughout this week. But I'm very glad you asked, Jordyn. So, I don't know. Not typos. 1 second. I'm doing things. There we go. Banner. So we will be back on Wednesday and Saturday, 10:30 p.m. EDT, or Thursday and Sunday, 12:30 p.m. AEDT, to talk all things BB Australia Week 3. Those are the only live streams we have for next week. But
and hopefully Brenton is in one of those live streams.
If Brenton does not show up in one of these episodes, I'm convinced he's not a Real House guest. Like, there's no way that he's a Real House guest. But Jordyn, should we tell them about the fun, other exciting things we're releasing next week?
Yes, let's talk about what else is coming.
So our normal episode of Drag Race Down Under, you'll be getting that on Friday. But also, we've kind of teased it. We may or may not have talked about it, but we're super excited because we are going to be covering Eurovision 2021. Fully my thought process. I was the one that brought it to Jordyn. And honestly, it's a camp mess.
I briefly said, what the fuck is Eurovision?
It's a campy disaster, and Lord, am I excited.
It's the bing bang bong of it all.
Truly. So we're going to be dropping 2 episodes for Eurovision next week in preparation for Eurovision week, which is the following week. Starts on the 18th. You're going to be getting a lot of Eurovision content within the next 2 weeks. So buckle up. We are super excited about that. There's a lot of fun shows on the horizon, a lot of shows premiering in the same like 10-day block, and I'm pissed about it. But nevertheless, we're going to be talking
back to
all
4
the things.
live streams a week.
God, Lord help us. And with that, and
Bye,
exhausted,
everyone.
goodbye.
Someone is always